Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of In Depth with David. It has been far too long. I keep taking these long hiatuses. I'm sorry, but I'm back. Just moved into my college dorm room uh, for the last time. I'm a senior, so tomorrow's actually my last first day of school ever. It's pretty surreal. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to unpack the Patriots' 53-man roster that they are heading into Sunday, September 11th against the Miami Dolphins with to begin this new football season. It's just finalized last night, I believe, around 4 or 5, early evening, late afternoon. But we're going to unpack that whole roster, every position, and all that stuff. But, I keep saying but, I am joined by a brand new guest to the channel. He's a good friend of mine. I've known him 5, 6 years now, would you say, probably?
Yeah, I'd say probably before or at the beginning of high school.
He's a good friend of mine. Everyone, please welcome Chris to In Depth with David. How you doing, Chris?
What's up? Great to be here.
Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
So as you know, I'm Dave's friend. I'm 22. I'm a grade above Dave, so I just graduated from Merrimack College. He goes to UMass Lowell. So
way to out me. Yeah,
yeah,
gonna be on my tail.
So just figuring things out on my way to get a full-time job, and we'll see how it goes from here. I hope I can come back regularly.
All right, we already got some no, absolutely. So we plan on this channel doing some videos like this, like midweek updates about the team. We're going to do previews for games, and then we're going to do post-game recaps. So it's going to be fun. I know Chris is excited. He reached out to me about the idea. I wanted to bring my podcast back. I don't even really know if this is a podcast anymore at this point, but I wanted to bring my channel back to do these types of videos, and that's what we're looking to do here. So we're going to get right into these Patriots 53-man roster that was just finalized yesterday evening. As I said, we're going to get started with the quarterback position. So really, honestly, no surprises here. This is just more of a formality, but the Patriots will be carrying 3 quarterbacks on their roster to begin the 2022 NFL season. Mac Jones, Brian Hoyer, and Bailey Zappi. Zappi is a rookie. He was a 4th-round draft pick this year by Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Mac Jones, of course, had a stellar rookie campaign last year. 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, somewhere right around there. Heck of a year for him, for sure. He looks to be the quarterback of the future for the Patriots. And we also have Brian Hoyer, who's just basically a coach at this point. He's been on and off the team for the last decade plus, but no real surprises here. I mean, I don't know if you have anything to add about that, but this is probably as big of a slam dunk of a group that there is on the Patriots in terms of not being surprised as who's a part of it.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, what else can you get? You have 3 quarterbacks. I do agree that Brian Hoyer is basically – I feel like he's more of a QB coach than Joe Judge is right now. So, Bailey Zappi, he looked a little nervous, I would say, during the preseason. He didn't really look like himself, when he was in college in Kentucky. So, I mean, I guess it's the, rookie jitters, I would say, but, we'll see. Maybe he'll take number 2.
And there's all these people in the Patriots community who think that Bailey Zappi is going to take the starting QB job from Mac Jones. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I just had to address that. Some people were genuinely serious in those predictions. And Zappi looked good at times in the preseason. Obviously, he had some rookie mistakes, quite literally. But Mac Jones is the guy. So moving forward from that, the Patriots will have 4 running backs on their squad to begin the year. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Ty Montgomery, and Pierre Strong. Kevin Harris and J.J. Taylor are part of the practice squad, which we will cover at the end. We'll talk about all the people in the practice squad towards the end of this video. But for the 4 players who are the running backs on the squad, obviously Harris and Ramondre Stevenson were a great 1-2 punch for New England last year once they got going. Harris is a true, pure running back, maybe a little bit undersized, but had a heck of a year last year, getting around 1,000 yards and double digits in touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson kind of reminds me of a younger LeGarrette Blount. I don't know if a lot of people will agree with that comparison, but he's great with the run after contact. He can absorb hits and keep running. Ty Montgomery was an interesting acquisition for New England in the offseason. He started his career as a wide receiver, then shifted to running back, and he's just right up Bill Belichick's alley as someone who is a versatile player who can play multiple positions. He is injured to begin the year, but he will remain on the roster. And Pierre Strong had a bit of a quiet summer, but he will also be on the team to begin the year. So, what is your overall take, Chris, on the running back corpse for the New England Patriots going into the season?
Well, I mean the 1-2 punch combo for Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson is basically, I would refer them as basically Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, that 1-2 combo there. I do have questions about Ty Montgomery because he just was out for an ankle injury. I don't know the severity of it, but they should have let Kevin Harris and Strong be more in the running game in the preseason, because I feel like it'd be more beneficial for them to get more reps and see how more comfortable they would get in the regular season.
I think the only surprising thing for me here was I thought there was an outside chance that J.J. Taylor can make the initial roster. Obviously, he's on the practice squad as we speak. It is very risky, at least to begin the year. I imagine they kept Ty Montgomery on the squad because it seems like he's not going to be injured for that long if the injury isn't serious. Right. But to only go into the season with 3 active running backs and Harris, Stevenson, and Strong, if one of them goes down, there's just a lot of uncertainty with what Strong can do. So maybe we see at some point J.J. Taylor get elevated from the practice squad to the roster. Maybe he'll get some reps on game day. Maybe this is just me kind of standing him. I know a lot of people on like Instagram love J.J. Taylor. They think he's like the GOAT. He's been great in preseason football his career so far, in his young career so far. But we'll see. I don't think the chapter of J.J. Taylor being in New England is quite over just yet. And whether he's on the practice squad for the time being, it is what it is. But I think we'll be seeing some J.J. Taylor action at some point this year with the regular squad.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like didn't they get rid of the fullback position altogether?
Yeah, So Jakob Johnson went to the Raiders, and there's not too much buzz in New England about the fullbacks anymore. I imagine, like, in those packages, we'll just use a tight end like John Hoover, Hunter Henry.
Yeah, because I was thinking maybe one of the rookies, I'd say maybe Strong or Harris could be maybe a fullback type situation.
So now we move forward to the tight end position, and I'll let you take this one to evaluate the tight ends here that made the roster.
Yeah, thank you. So Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, they're pretty good. I mean, but Hunter Henry is clearly the number one tight end for this team. They have been saying that Jonnu Smith has been getting better or being more available in the pass game, but I feel like with just 2 tight ends, you definitely need a third tight end as like a backup for them, because if one goes down, then what's going to happen? If Hunter Henry goes down, then Jonnu Smith is the number one. But we saw last year he wasn't able to grab some of the catches from Mac Jones, and he fumbled a few, I believe. Was it from the Bills, I think? I think it was – there was one game that he fumbled one, and it was really bad. It might have been the Saints, but,
He had that – just to cut you off real quickly, he had that play against the Saints where he couldn't corral the catch from Mac Jones, and then there was a pick six, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so that's really bad for that. But, hopefully they'll keep him, that'd be actually a great idea to be the fullback for that. Have the 2 tight end, 3 receiver combo for that. That'd be great.
And here's my theory about Jonnu Smith, because a lot of people are obviously disappointed in the season he had last year. It was a bit of a letdown, but everyone has to be reminded that it was a pretty big shock when Mac Jones was named as a starting quarterback to begin the year last year. And it's crazy that I think it was a year ago today that announcement was made, which is crazy. But he spent the whole summer and like the time before that when he had just signed with New England, working with Cam Newton, building chemistry with Cam Newton, Jonnu Smith I'm still talking about. And he had spent so much of his time with that. He hadn't developed too much chemistry with Mac Jones. Hunter Henry was more the guy who developed more chemistry with Mac Jones. And you saw those results play out in the season where Hunter Henry had a heck of a season with Mac Jones throwing the ball down. He was a great red zone threat, whereas Johnny Smith struggled. But now that Johnny Smith has had a whole offseason to work with Mac Jones, he's been very diligent. He's been in the system for a year. Everyone often talks about how difficult the New England system is to learn. There's a chance for Johnny Smith to really just turn this upside down and have a great season with Mac Jones as his quarterback. Now that he's built chemistry with him.
Well, it's even more crazy because of the coaching changes. I thought we were going to be set for the next maybe 5-10 years, and then Josh McDaniels finds a coaching job, and now we're left with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge.
Yeah, those are the two guys you want to lead your offense.
Oh yeah,
everyone available. Yeah,
can't wait.
But and then Hunter Henry obviously had a great season last year. Red zone threat, had around 1,000 yards. He was a great pickup in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we dealt out a heck of a lot of free agency last spring, or spring 2021. This year, not so much, but Hunter Henry and Johnny Smith got pretty lucrative contracts. Hunter Henry's lived up to it so far. Johnny Smith, we have high hopes for him for sure. I think he's going to have a great year. I'm rooting for him. And there's just so many, going back to Johnny, so many different things you can do with him. I don't know if you remember when we had Martellus Bennett, but we used to do things with Martellus Bennett where we'd have him be like a running back in formations because he'd be so versatile. That's like right at Johnny's playbook, honestly. That's his play style because he's an athletic tight end. He's like a wide receiver tight end hybrid, which is just so dangerous. And if we can unlock his full potential, maybe the offense doesn't look as bad as we think it does.
Yeah. Although for the third option for tight end, I think every news organization or every sports, at least local sports, network was saying that little Jordan Humphrey could be converted into a tight end because he does have that frame of a tight end because he's pretty quick, but I feel like he's kind of like Josh Gordon a little bit, has that size, but then he's a little more muscular and can actually, catch the ball.
Definitely. And we saw he had a great play in special teams in the preseason game against the Panthers. I was slightly surprised that he didn't make the roster, but he is on the practice squad.
Yeah.
We'll see how long he stays on that. I feel like a team's going to claim him, but I do hope that we keep him in the Patriots roster in some capacity for sure. But just to wrap up the tight end position quickly, I'm shocked that we only kept two. I thought we would keep Asiasi as a third, but we cut Asiasi, and he was just claimed earlier today by the Bengals. We were hoping to keep him on the practice squad, but that just wasn't the case. So this could be a bit of an issue too, because the two tight end systems, again, could be coming back to New England, and we could have as much success as we had the last time we ran them. But let's address the elephant in the room. Hunter Henry, including last year, has had a pretty big health history or like injury history in his career so far. So it feels like an unnecessary gamble to me, and you just got to hope that they stay healthy.
Yeah.
But going forward from that, we will tackle the offensive line now. There will be 8 members of the offensive line on the opening game squad. We have Trent Brown, rookie Cole Strange, veteran David Andrews, Michael Onwenu, Isaiah Wynn. That's going to be the starting 5, hypothetically, in the offensive line. And then backups that were brought along were Chasen Hines, Justin Herron, and Yodny Kajust. So Trent Brown obviously was seen as an afterthought when we acquired him in the summer of 2018, but he became an all-pro player with the Patriots, I believe, on our way to winning a Super Bowl. He's huge. He's like 6'7", 270. He's a crazy size for an offensive lineman. Then he went to go get his payday in Vegas. Then he hated in Vegas. He wanted out, and then we traded for him again, and he's been here his second stint since last year. Still a heck of a tackle. Cole Strange is a rookie who was a surprising pick by pretty much everyone in the NFL in the first round by Bill Belichick, but obviously Bill Belichick sees big things coming from him to put him right in the starting lineup as a rookie. David Andrews, don't need to say too much about him because we all know how amazing he is. He came in as an undrafted free agent. We've won two. Is it two Super Bowls he's won with us? Yeah,
Um,
16
was he
and
with us
18.
with the Seahawks or was he not? Because he was definitely with the Rams and the Falcons. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
so I think it was just the last two I want to
it
say
was.
because
Okay.
we had Brian Stork for the
Okay.
Seahawks one. That's a throwback name. But David Andrews has come in and he's just been the ultimate professional. Last offseason, he had a chance to get a mega payday because he's one of the better centers in the league. He took a pay cut because he wanted to stay in New England. Just an all around stand up guy, and he's a captain. Michael Onwenu was one of the few bright spots of the 2020 season. He was a 6th-round pick, and he was a great offensive lineman then, and he'll slot in at right guard this season. And we have Isaiah Wynn, who was a first-round pick in 2018 along with Sony Michel, and he has a bit of an injury history, and he had a pretty rough preseason with players blowing right past him. But you figure unless the Patriots trade him sometime between now and September 11th, he will be on the opening day starting offensive line as well. And as I said, backups Jason Hines, Justin Herron, Yannick Adjust. So we are carrying 8 people just to have that depth, just in case offensive linemen go down. But what is your evaluation of the offensive line corps for the Patriots?
Well, I mean, we do have the pieces to have a good offensive line, but the problem is with the coaching strategy that's being implemented. The real problems on the offensive line is when they do the outside zone runs, they are not coordinated enough to move together, and the running back just either doesn't get any yardage or it goes for like 2 or 3 yards. So it's not beneficial at all. They just weren't built for that type of system. But I mean, there was like skeptics about Trent Brown, being like not doesn't have the right mindset for the season because of what's been going on. I feel like I am worried about him, but they just got to start believing in themselves a little more. It's just at some point you either got to implement this new system or you just got to scrap it because it's not going to be good for Mac Jones at all. Because I'm pretty sure you saw it if you watched the Raiders game. He was kind of scrambling a lot more than he really needed to, and then he forced one down the middle to throw an interception. So I mean, there was one time I think he had Devontae Parker on the left side, the stream or the vertical route, and he just wasn't too confident with the offensive line to hold. So it's like I don't know what you're supposed to do about that.
And my biggest fear is with Cole Strange being just thrusted into the starting position right away.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on him because everyone thinks we reached to pick him. He hasn't had the strongest preseason. He didn't have a great game against Vegas to end the preseason. So there's a lot of pressure on him to do great. And there's a lot of pressure on the offensive line just to protect Mac Jones. And as you said, that hasn't really been the case all preseason. Patriots quarterbacks have not been protected that well. So what was once a strong suit of Patriots teams and how strong their offensive lines have been over the year is not as strong heading into the season. Do you think it was a mistake that we traded Shaq Mason this offseason?
I do.
Granted, just because we wanted to get the cap space, of course, because Shaq Mason was making around $10 million a year, I believe, and it was well deserved. He's one of the best guards in the league. But continue.
Yeah, I do think it was a mistake. I mean, I know the cap was an issue, but I think we might have overpaid our receiving group a little bit too much. Like I think Jonnu Smith maybe should have taken a pay cut, or maybe Nelson Aguilar, or just get rid of Nelson Aguilar. I mean, because although he has been having good training camp, but I mean, the cap spaces shouldn't have to be an issue if the player is that good.
Shout out to my good friend Carter here, back like he never left. Yeah, we're back. We're looking to do Patriots recaps all season. I'm motivated. I want to get back on this YouTube grind with my good friend Chris here. Make sure you follow Carter Biss as well. He's got a great YouTube channel himself. Yeah, so a lot of questions with the offensive line for sure. And we will get into the wide receivers right now. I almost skipped over them. before we head to the defense. So that's a perfect segue to talk about wide receivers. Patriots will start with 5 on the squad. A little bit of a smaller number. Usually you see 6, but what's one going to do? So starting with Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, Devontae Parker, and Tyquan Thornton are the wide receivers on the opening day squad for New England. Injured reserve, Christian Wilkerson, after he got lit up in a practice against the Carolina Panthers, which is when the fight broke out. Don't like to see that at all. So he will begin the year on injured reserve. And the ones that were released and I believe also transferred to the practice squad were Lil Jordan Humphrey, which we touched upon earlier, Trey Nixon, who was a 7th round pick in 2021, and Josh Hanlon. So you'll get this wide receiver core. I think it's a pretty strong group. I mean, these aren't the biggest household names in terms of in the grand NFL scheme, but the Patriots' MO has always been finding players that can fit the system. Jacoby Myers keeps getting better. He had a great 2020 campaign, an even better 2021 campaign, and he's still going to be a big focal point of this offense. Kendrick Bourne, who I figured as soon as we signed him last offseason was going to be a great fit for this offense, and I was proved right. He had over 50 catches, 800 yards, around 5-7 touchdowns. Nelson Aguilar, who you touched upon earlier, was given a big contract last offseason. Hasn't lived up to the hype yet. He was another member of the offense along with Jonnu Smith, who struggled last season. But he is slated to have a big year, and there's not really much room for error there. He needs to have a big year personally for his NFL future because he's a free agent after this year. Obviously, we threw the money at him, but he looked pretty encouraging from what I heard so far this summer in preseason games. Instead of just having him run down the field or throwing him in the slot, having him run intermediate routes, medium routes, rather than just all long routes, because the Patriots' offense has never really been built on throwing the ball down the field and having to be a vertical offense. You have the new addition, Devontae Parker, who I'm really excited for because we've basically gone for pennies on the dollar. Obviously, as you talked about earlier, he is one guy in the receiving corps who is making a lot of money. I think he has 1 year left on his deal with around $9 million. But I've liked the chemistry so far he's had with Mac Jones, and I think he has a chance to have a great year. And they have a guy like Tyquan Thornton, who, again, is going to be hurt to begin the year, but he ran a 4.240. He's got great hands, and he's just super fast, and there's just so much potential there. So what are all your thoughts on this Patriots receiving corps?
No, yeah, I mean, I think the most reliable receiver on this receiving core is definitely Jacoby Myers. He's always there for Mac on at least half the time on third downs and second downs. Him and Hunter Henry are definitely the key pieces that you definitely should look for. And I hope Nelson Aguilar does have a good year because now he's got the extra benefit of Tyquan Thornton being out for, I believe it's 8 weeks with his injury. So I hope he steps up to the mark. And then Devontae Parker, he's definitely an upgrade from what we had, but he can be, with the 50-50 balls, he should be pretty good with it. But sometimes I have my doubt of, some contested catches that he should win, that he doesn't necessarily grab, which is kind of my concern. I think of him as a very cheaper version of DK Metcalf, I would say, because he's got the body for it, but he's not as strong and he's just not as more athletic than him. But
I think he could be a great bailout receiver though, in terms of Mac just throws up the ball and you need someone to get that. Devontae Parker is honestly one of the best in the game, if you ask me, at doing that, and that might be high honors. And I'm probably really biased, that he's a Patriot right now. But I go back to this game. It was the season finale in 2019, Patriots-Dolphins. This was when Stephon Gilmore won Defensive Player of the Year. Final game of that regular season, Chris. Devontae Parker and the Dolphins torched him for 180 yards.
That's true, but wasn't that 2-3 years ago, though?
Yeah,
but age does, burden on receivers once in a while. Because think about it, there's a couple receivers probably out there that's now been on 5 or 6 different teams, just trying to find,
He's still in his prime, though. He's 29 years old, Devontae Parker. And, I mean, if this goes bust, it is what it is. All we gave up was a fifth-round pick for him. So,
because this is his last year on his rookie contract, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Last year in his contract, yeah. So, it's literally low risk, high reward. And I like what I've seen from him. He had that touchdown call back against Vegas, but I just think he's going to be doing wonders for Mac because he can just really grab any ball, honestly, or can make a play on any ball. So I'm excited to see Devontae Parker. Personally, out of everyone in that wide receiver group, that's what I'm most excited to see because nothing personal against the others, but we all know what they can do. We all know that the others can dominate when given the opportunity in their respective positions. So we are now going to switch to the defense and tackle the defensive line first. New England will be carrying 6 defensive linemen: Christian Barmore, Devon Godshaw, Lawrence Guy, Dietrich Wise Jr., Sam Roberts, and Carl Davis Jr. O'Brien Ray and Jeremiah Fams Jr. did not make it. Daniel Elkuwale is suspended, and Henry Anderson was placed on IR. So I'll let you take care of the defensive line here.
So yeah, I think we have a pretty decent offensive line. I do like the addition of Wise Jr. because he's basically replacing Hightower. I don't know what his status is still. I don't know if he's just gone or he's just retired or something like that.
All but retired, we'll say.
Okay, because he didn't publicly announce it, but he was definitely a good pickup from the Browns. Christian Barmore, I mean, what a heck of a rookie season he had. I mean, he's only going to go off from here. Those I feel like are, and Lawrence Guy is just always dependable, dependable. And Devontae Godshaw, I have a few questions about him. I wonder how good he's actually going to be because I believe Belichick was praising him because of being such a great player, but it doesn't necessarily show on the field, so that's kind of a concern. But the other guys, I don't really know much about because Sam Roberts, he's a rookie.
Yep.
So
we'll see how he does. I think the spotlight is definitely going to be on just Barmore and Godshaw in the defensive line. Barmore trade up to get him in the second round. Heck of a pickup. One of the better pickups, as you said, and it's another slam dunk that Belichick hit on in the 2021 NFL draft. Godshaw was very durable last year, got a lot of tackles, and he was rewarded with a nice lucrative extension, which is something that Belichick doesn't always do, of course, but he was rewarded for great play last year. Dietrich Wise hasn't really become what the Patriots have wanted him since we drafted him a few years ago, but granted, I don't think the expectations for him were too high. So guys like him and aging Lawrence Guy are just depth, and Sam Roberts and Carl Davis Jr., the expectations aren't really high for them either, but they just all act as depth to the top 2 guys that I mentioned, Barmore and Godshaw. So this group should be okay at developing a little bit of pressure. It's just the biggest thing for me, and it's been year in and year out at the Patriots, and it destroyed us at the end of last year when we started to crumble, was just stopping the run, honestly. And that group just needs to make sure that they can do just that.
I also want to clarify. I do believe I might have messed up on Dietrich Wise and with the linebacker Mac Wilson. I believe Mac Wilson was from the Browns. I believe I mixed those 2 up.
Oh no, you're good. We'll get to the linebackers in a second.
Yeah, it's getting a little ahead of myself.
No worries with that. It's your first recap ever. We're just got to dust off the cobwebs, but. We will talk about edge defenders now. 4 edge defenders for New England headed into the season: Matt Judon, Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche, and DeMarcus Mitchell. Judon had a heck of a season last year for New England. He fell off the map in the last month of the year. I believe he said he was playing through an injury, though. But he was a slam dunk in terms of another Patriots acquisition in the spring of 2021. Became a fan favorite very quickly because people love the red sleeves. They love the celebration. And he does a great job at bringing the pressure to the quarterback. Anthony Jennings missed all last year, but he made some waves in 2020, and it looks like he's going to have another big role this season where he's going to be opposite Matt Judon in terms of them both being the edge rushers. So you hope Anthony Jennings can come back and just be a contributor again. Josh Uche is a guy that we also drafted in 2020. He's a linebacker from Michigan, and I believe all reports point to him both improving last year and this year. So he's going to get somewhat of a role for sure in the mix. And then DeMarcus Mitchell is an undrafted free agent, and it looks like he'll just be a special teamer. So, I mean, I don't have any qualms about this group. I think that this is a solid group. I don't have any like strong feelings about it. I don't know. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Matthew Judon is definitely going to have to be the leader of this group. I feel like because last year he was pretty decent. I mean, actually he was great actually because he went to the Pro Bowl with Mac Jones, and it was kind of surprising that the Ravens just kind of like gave up on him. I believe at the end,
I
or
don't
was
think
it a contract issue?
I don't think they gave up on him. I just think Belichick, as they say, gave him an offer he couldn't refuse.
That's true. He is getting up there in age, though, isn't he?
Is he 32?
I believe so.
Because when you're on the wrong side of 30 in football, that is true.
Yeah. So
he's 30, straight 30. So the biggest thing for me is just durability with Judon, because he tweaked something in that Buffalo game last year where Mac Jones only threw 3 passes, and we ended up winning that game. But ever since that game, Judon just wasn't himself. And
right.
When he's fresh in the quarterback, only good things are going to happen. And he was one of
the Jaguars game was pretty solid.
But that was the Jaguars.
That was.
So now we'll tackle the linebackers. We got Jawan Bentley, Raquan McMillan, Mac Wilson Sr., and Jelani Tavai. Cameron McGrone, Harvey Lange, and Nate Weiland did not make the 53-man roster, but I believe at least a couple of them are on the practice squad. Bentley is pretty athletic. I remember he had a great rookie season when he was thrust into a role in 2018. Raquan McMillan and Mac Wilson are an athletic pair. And Jelani Tavai, I'm reading right now on Pat's Pulpit. Shout out to them, by the way. This is just where we're getting the roster. They talked about on here how he was praised by Belichick throughout the offseason and he could be a 4-down player. So Belichick obviously would appreciate that versatility. But, I mean, you just looked at 2 guys like Raquan McMillan and Mac Wilson Sr., who they talked about on this article, are athletes. And that's one of the big things that the Patriots look to do this offseason because I don't know if you remember, Chris, but the Colts game late last year, Jonathan Taylor ran all over us for 270 yards. The Bills playoff game, which we all want to forget, Josh Wilson just ran around. All the wide receivers ran around. For years and years and years, the Patriots linebackers in front 7 have always been slow. But finally, the Patriots are starting to change their philosophy where we want more slimmer, faster players in the front 7. And Mac Wilson and Raquan McMillan fit that category. So the fact that we're getting faster on defense, honestly, in my opinion, is only going to help us.
Yeah, I mean, that's also true. I just felt like with Bill's philosophy, it was like bigger, stronger, and like heavier would be beneficial of more pressure on the quarterback, just basically bulldozing the offensive line. But now you can see there's a lot more mobile quarterbacks. There's a lot more different run schemes that that they could catch the running back, but they're just too slow and they won't catch him.
And this is a rare version or rare occurrence of Belichick, adapting with the times because, Belichick's one of the most stubborn coaches in the league for a good reason. He's, won 6 Super Bowls, been to at least 9, 10, whatever. He's won 8 Super Bowls with the 2 with the Giants. But point being, Belichick's adapting with the times, and that's a perfect point what you talked about with the more mobile quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson's, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens of the world. When we face all those guys and one of those guys 2 times a year, you got to adapt. Belichick is doing just that there with linebackers. I'll let you talk about the corners.
Yeah, so we got Jalen Mills, Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, Jack Jones, Miles Bryant, and Sean Wade. And then Terrence Mitchell is out right now. So I do like the cornerbacks. I do wish we had J.C. Jackson back, but this is a solid solid group, I would say. I think Jalen Mills needs to step up a little more because I felt like he was pretty shaky at sometimes because he would have some missed tackles. I feel like he's, is better than that since he's, obviously a veteran. I do like that Marcus Jones and Jack Jones get a chance to shine, as rookies because they do have a lot of promising assets. Because I believe Marcus Jones is the guy who goes against the slot, or is it Jack Jones? It's one of them, but they've been just phenomenal, and they also do punt returns as well. I've seen from their highlights, and it can be an asset on special teams. And then Miles Bryant, he's always a guy that can just be a filler. I would say he just knows where to go. I would say Terrence Mitchell was kind of the outcast. I feel like he was just a quick pickup, just in case if someone gets hurt. He'd be just put into a system. But I know he was from the Texans. They were the Texans, so you can't really diminish him as much. So
Yeah, I think with you saying like the whole J.C. Jackson point, I went back to when he immediately left and thinking that the cornerback position was going to be weakness, and I still felt that heading into the summer. But if Jalen Mills can be more consistent, Jonathan Jones has always been reliable since we've had him. He is one of the longer veterans, honestly, on this team at this point, which is weird to say. The Joneses had great summer training camps and preseasons. Miles Bryant, as you said, is just solid depth. And Sean Wade, as they talk about here in this article on Pat's Pulpit, had a strong end of the summer. So this is a scrappy group of guys who seem pretty versatile because you have Jonathan Jones, he moved to the outside. Jalen Mills can play all over. He's a versatile corner. The other Joneses, again, strong summers so far. They're going to be scrappy, and I think they can, hold their own for sure. I envision there potentially being hiccups with this group because, again, this isn't the biggest household group of name of players, of course, but they seem like they're willing to be coached. They seem like they can be a little disciplined. I mean, I know the Patriots as a whole struggle with stupid flags in the preseason, but we just need them to be solid. They're a secondary, and with this being a passing league now, you just hope that they hold their own.
my only concern was Jonathan Jones moving from the outside. That indicates that we don't really have a solid number one corner, which is kind of scary to me. Because I thought Jalen Mills should be clearly the number one after J.C. Jackson left. So that's, kind of scary.
And I was rooting for Malcolm Butler to get like a better farewell tour than what happened last time he was here, but just wasn't meant to be. He got injured, injury settlement.
He did okay. I don't think he was gonna make the actual roster. I think he probably just would have been on the practice squad as a filler. I think you had to give it to the rookies because they do. If you've seen their highlights, they have a lot of great moments. I would say. I know they didn't really play as much in the preseason as they probably should have, but they'll definitely get some, a lot of playing time to, this season. So.
And then we move on to the safeties. There's 5 safeties with the Pats so far to begin the year. Devin McCourty, Adrian Phillips, Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, and Joshua Bledsoe. This group is probably the strongest group on the roster, honestly. Devin McCourty has been a staple at the safety position for over a decade now. Adrian Phillips was a savvy free agency pickup a couple years ago by Belichick, and he's been great. Kyle Duggar has been great since he was a rookie. He was another, strong spot and otherwise dire 2020, and he was solid again last year. Jabril Peppers is a bit of a wild card to me, but he has shown strongness in the past in his career, and I think that this is just another low-risk cardboard signing by Belichick. And you have a guy like Joshua Bledsoe, who we talked about here in the article, ended up or had a strong summer. So Belichick even said it in an interview yesterday when the legendary sportscaster Chris Boomer Berman showed up to the press conference. They said they asked him, Boomer asked him, what's the strongest group you have on your roster? And Belichick said the safeties. So I think that's all you need to know about that group for sure. And they're going to be one of the strong points of the team.
No, yeah, I agree with that. I just feel like sometimes I kind of question Devin McCourty sometimes because he's just
That's
I've
interesting. That's a hot take.
yeah I've seen him like do pretty well. Like I remember like the Falcons game, he was able to run fast enough to get that interception, but then sometimes he's just sometimes not in the right position. I feel like. I mean, Kyle Duggar and Adrian Phillips are definitely going to be on the hot seat. Definitely going to have a lot more playing time and a lot more benefits this year. Adrian Phillips, I mean not Adrian Phillips. Peppers. I feel like what was it? He had a 1 year or 2 year contract, I believe.
I think we signed him for a year.
A year, yeah.
Quick Google
That's
search.
I don't necessarily like these short term contracts. I mean, I guess it's hinting at that we might have to, get another safety or two in next year's draft. But, other than that, I feel like this is just still a solid group overall.
Well, you got to understand with Peppers because he partially tore his ACL last
Yeah.
year, and he obviously didn't play the whole season. It's kind of like a 1 year prove it thing for both sides, where the Patriots are going to latch him on for a year, and if he does well, we might offer him an extension. But even if he doesn't do well, or like even if we don't re-sign him and say he has a great season, he's earned a payday. So those 1 year contracts make sense for sure, and it even gives versatility for the Patriots safety group because you look at someone like Joshua
Mhm.
Bledsoe, who if he continues to be strong, he could move up in the depth chart and take over for Peppers come this time next year in 2023. So all in all, though, a very strong group there, and they're going to be heavily relied upon to do a good job in holding their own in that secondary. And we'll just cover it quickly. The special teams group coverage specialists: Matthew Slater, Brendan Schooler, Cody Davis. No surprises there. Uh, Matthew Slater, legendary Patriot player, has really found his way as a special teamer. No one really knew what his role is early on in his career, but he has just been a phenomenal special teams player. So many Pro Bowl awards. He will easily be a Hall of Famer someday. Might be the best special teams player in NFL history, honestly. Justin Bethel was a bit surprising that he didn't make the roster, and it looks like it's goodbye for good. They said he posted some serious goodbye posts on Instagram. Your Pat's Pulpit talks about, but those three that I mentioned are going to be solid. And then you have Nick Folk, kicker, Jake Bailey, punter and holder, and Joe Cardona, long snapper. Same groups as it's been year in and year out. So special teams, another solid year for sure. And we all know the cliche is Bill Belichick emphasizes the importance of special teams just as much as offensive defense. And we always seem to have a strong special teams corps, usually, give or take maybe some years in between with some boneheaded mistakes. But I think you can rely on special teams too this year for sure, just to do their thing again.
I don't believe we have a automatic punt returner yet, do we?
Who was taking punts in preseason? Did you say it was
Miles Bryan,
Miles Bryant?
but
How do
he's
you
on
feel
the
about that?
roster, so
If he were to be the punt returner today, what how would you feel?
I mean, I feel like there's better options. He's not the worst. I think it was one of the Joneses. He was a better punt return. I think it was Jack Jones that did most of the punt returning when he was, in college. And he got like 3 or 4 touchdowns that went for like 90 plus yards. So I mean, he's definitely a better option. I think Ty Montgomery, he could be, like that like flex option of being a receiver or running back or like a punt returner. But other than that, the special teams, I'm glad they extended Jake Bailey's contract. And I think Nick Folk has 1 more year. Is this his last year? I believe
Let's do another.
they did extend his contract. I think from last year for 1 more year
Um,
because he's been amazing. I think he was probably
yes, yep, 2 year deal.
definitely 2 year deal. Yeah. Okay. So he's probably definitely like a top. I would say top 10 kicker in this league by far.
Big kick Nick,
Yeah.
He has been clutch since we picked up in 2020 in that terrible season. He had a couple game-winning kicks, and he's just been
like
clutch.
3. I would say 3. 3 games we would have, if we didn't have him, we would have lost.
Yeah, so that's the roster. We do have a question here in the comments. I don't know what you want us to talk about with TB12, but let us know in another comment. But what do you think about this roster, Chris? All in all,
I mean, it's just a roster. I feel like it's an average roster. I think that there is some highlights to this roster, especially probably more on the defensive side. I mean, you did get a good receiver. I know you probably reached for him a little too far. Definitely reached for that number 1 pick. Bill Belichick as a GM, he either hits it out of the park or is striking out all the time. So we'll see how that goes with that. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty average. It's we'll see how the season goes. Everyone counted us out when we were 2-4, and look at that. We won 7 straight, and everyone was fearing for their lives again.
we don't talk about what happened after the bye week, though.
Yeah.
The season ended right after the Bills game, where we only threw 3 passes. That was the Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, I think this team is worse than last year. Probably. I don't think that's like a hot take. This was not a banner offseason for Bill Belichick, but there is the chance people say for this draft class that we just selected to be as impactful as the one from 2021. That's what people are saying. I don't know how everyone else feels about that, but this season could really be anywhere from, to me, 7-10 to 10-7. I think 7-10 wins again. I think you're looking either right outside the playoffs at the 8 seed, or you can sneak in 7 or 6. But maybe we could surprise people again. I'd be pleasantly surprised if we do. It's just a lot of the AFC got better. You have the Bills right in front of you. I think all 4 teams in the AFC West could give you problems.
Mm-hmm.
The AFC South teams, I mean, there's going to be a division winner from there, and then there's an AFC North division winner as well. So the chances of the Patriots making the playoffs are probably slimmer than they were last year, but I think we can still squeak in and maybe win a playoff game. But a lot has to go right. Scott Zolak on the radio after calling the game against Vegas last week said that the Patriots have no momentum heading into the season, and that is true. We had a very rough summer, a lot of confusions on the offensive side. The defense was great, but this is really going to be an interesting season, and I honestly am looking forward to it. Whether it's an absolute train wreck or it's a pleasant surprise again,
right.
I'm always going to be a Patriots fan.
Yeah.
And for all the people crying, saying like this year's going to be terrible and stuff, it's like just a little over 3 years ago, we were raising our 6th Lombardi Trophy. We've had it good as Patriots fans. We're not going to be able to win it all every year. And when the greatest quarterback of all time leaves, it's tough to recover from that immediately. But we found something. Last 4 or 6 games of the year just crumble.
Yeah, I mean, I think your mic's a little messed up right now. I can see it in the comments right now.
You just take it away.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this season I'm glad it's not going to be the worst season. It's not going to be the best. I feel like in 2020 was definitely probably the worst I've ever seen them, well, at least in my time, I remember that time that we got destroyed by the Bears, back in like God knows how long. But anyways, that was in the past. But we'll see how it goes. I feel like the NFL analysts are right that we're just in the middle of the pack. We're usually ranked now like 15, through like 18 because of losing Josh McDaniels, but then maybe adding our two decent rookies or something. There's always an equal balance, and we'll see what happens.
Is this better?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you remember when we lost in 1986 to the Bears? You remember that?
I think it was like 42 points, I believe.
Yeah, but you were alive to witness that. Is that what you're saying?
No. I mean, because I remember they saw the highlights. I think it was one of the Bears game that we were actually playing the Bears, and they showed like a highlight of how the team was back then and now. So I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
But,
so yeah, this is going to be an interesting season for sure, and I'll quickly touch on the practice squad since I have that link pulled up. Bill Murray is an interesting one for the practice squad because he was a defensive lineman, but they converted him to an offensive guard. Cody Rusty, James Ferentz are offensive line backups as well. J.J. Taylor, Kevin Harris, Jalen Weidermeyer, Matt Sokol, Trey Nixon, Lil Jordan Humphrey are all on the offensive side. And this is pretty funny. This is on the Patriots website, Chris. They're talking about the training camp squad.
Oh,
They don't know who this player is, but they just said on the report number 68 on the offense. Someone unidentifiable was wearing number 68 at training camp, and they have no clue who it is, not even the Patriots.
Huh.
So I thought that was funny. And then the defensive side of the practice squad, Brian Ray, Jeremiah Farms, Harvey Lange, a veteran linebacker, Cameron McGrone, another linebacker, Terrence Mitchell, veteran corner, and Brad Hawkins, who's an undrafted safety out of Michigan. So that's your practice squad. We talked about the 53-man roster. And before we wrap things up, we're just going to take a quick second to talk about the schedule. So we talked about September 11th. We open up against Miami at 1 p.m. down in Miami. We go to Pittsburgh, face Pittsburgh. Home opener isn't until week 3 against Baltimore. At Green Bay versus Detroit. At Cleveland versus Chicago. At the Jets versus the Colts. Then we have our bye. Then versus the Jets, at the Vikings, versus the Bills, at the Cardinals, at the Raiders, versus the Bengals, versus the Dolphins, and then at the Bills. So I kind of went through that pretty quickly, but my consensus is 5 of those last 6 games are going to be very tough, and the end of the season is not going to do any favors for the Patriots yet again.
No, yeah. Up until the Vikings game, all the way through is going to be tough. You have to go like 4-3 with those teams. You have to get at least above half in order to make it. I do believe you have some like kind of gimme games. I would say, for me personally, I think the Steelers, Lions, Browns, Bears, and the Jets are kind of like the games that you should win because they're either in rebuild mode or they're just, lack of coordination for, and other reasons like Deshaun Watson for like the Browns, and then the Steelers, their quarterback situation again. And then the Lions are in a complete rebuild mode as well as the Jets. And then the Bears are just the Bears,
I'll just say this one last point. Scott Zolak also brought this up that the Patriots need to start 2-0 to begin the year and have a chance to make the playoffs because if we split the Dolphins and Steelers games, we have 2 very losable games after that with the Ravens and Packers. And then the schedule starts to get a little bit easier. But if you have 3 losses in the first 4 games, we got past that last year, but it's not always a given that, especially this year, if we're 1-3 to begin the year, I don't think we're making the playoffs.
Although everyone's thinking, this might be the year that we actually win in Miami. So we'll see.
I hope so. I mean, it's about dang time. The Patriots, the Patriots travel. they're going to travel down to Miami sooner than they usually do to get used to like the weather down there. So I think that's the right move. And I'm just kind of sick and tired of losing to Tua Tagovailoa. He's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm a big
No,
Tua
he's
guy.
not. He's not a great quarterback though. Let's be honest.
One of the nicest guys, but like,
Yeah,
how is he 3-0 against us?
yeah, because Tyreek Hill keeps hyping him up.
And that's another thing. We got to stop Tyreek Hill because they're going to do wonders with him in that offense. As much as I don't like the guy,
That's why I like the two rookies. They're nice, fast, and quick. And then you could have the safety come down on him, double team him. But then you got Jalen Waddle, and we'll see how that goes. I think he's a better one-on-one match, just because he's not as fast, I would say, as Tyreek Hill, but he's still up there. He's not more of a deep threat. But the curveball in this schedule, I feel like I think the Packers, I feel like everyone's hyping them up too much because their offense is not what they used to be without Devontae Adams. Because now you got 3 rookie receivers and you just throwing them in there, and you know how Aaron Rodgers feels about the rookie receivers. He just doesn't always get on the same page, and he just gets aggravated with them.
So, how many wins do you think we'll have this year? If you
I
had to
mean,
give a rough prediction right
if
now.
it was a month ago, I would say 11-6. As of right now, I would say 9-8.
Wow, you're less optimistic than me. Jeez, I'm going to go 10-7. I thought you'd be a little
I was in the middle. I mean, because you got to think about it though, because this schedule is not easy at all. Because there's probably a couple games like the Bills, Raiders, and
Cardinals.
And I would say Ravens are kind of, bigger threats right now. Bengals, I mean, you could say just because their defense is okay. But, other than that, I mean, like I think we should win against the Vikings in the in the Colts. I feel like we should.
Well, and that's another one too, because Matt Ryan is still a solid quarterback. You just don't know.
Yeah, their receiver core is not really big though. They don't really have that many good receivers. It's just him and like Jonathan Taylor on the offense, and then
Michael
their
Pittman.
defense is pretty solid though, I must say.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that wraps it up, honestly, unless you have any other points you want to bring up.
I mean, we have to split against the Dolphins and the Bills in order to make.
No, I think. Oh, the Dolphins and the Bills, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, in order to even have a shot, there's just too many teams because you got Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders that are better than us. Then you got the Bills. Dolphins is 50-50, and then you got the Bengals, and then the Colts have to win their division, so that's obviously a spot for the playoffs. So yeah, so we're probably solid number 10 team.
You got the four division winners and then the 3 wildcard teams that make the playoffs. It's going to be an interesting season, tough schedule, but we're looking forward to it. So that is pretty much going to be it for this episode of In Depth with David. How'd you feel after your first podcast here, or first recap here, Chris?
It was all right, I had to do a little extra homework, I'd say, on
you're in grad
some of the
school
positions. Now. I'm kind of more towards like the offense, side of the ball. I'd say I am more comfortable with like the schedule as well, and looking at other teams as well. So,
well, we're looking forward to having you on more of these episodes. We're going to do pre-game recaps, pre-game previews, post-game recaps, and we might do updates throughout the week. Chris is going to be a staple of the channel moving forward, so get used to seeing his face more to all the viewers out there. I want to thank everyone for joining us this episode. We have a lot of comments here. Not all great stuff. I won't address it on camera. I probably will talk about it with Chris off camera in a minute. But thanks for all the help here and the support, guys. We appreciate it. And we will be back soon to preview the game against the Miami Dolphins in week 1 of the NFL season between the New England Patriots and Miami Dolphins down at Hard Rock Stadium in South Florida. All righty, guys. Take it easy. Have a good night. Take care.